Bad calls, dirty slashing, we expect a little bull on the ice. But you know when we can't stand it? When we're tracking packages. Looking up tracking numbers, shipping statuses that never get updated, we call bullshit. So we got Route. It's the free app that tracks everything you order online in one place. Route sends us real-time tracking updates, or we can pop into the app to see where our stuff is on an actual map. Download the Route app in the App Store or Google Play, or head to route.com to learn more. No bullshit, just great tracking.
You're listening to an LA Kings podcast. For more episodes of this and every other Kings program, visit lakings.com/podcast.
Taken away, far boards. Peterson walks to the front, backhanded shot, saved quick, and he covers.
You're listening to All the Kings Men, the official podcast of the LA Kings.
Oh, backdoor, what a save by Quick on Dennis Gurianov.
Now, here's your host, Jesse Cohen.
When it comes to a starting lineup, everybody loves the starter from Jack Black. Loaded with the superior skincare that the pros love, LA Kings fans can get the starter for just $10, shipping included. Available exclusively at getjackblack.com with the code TEAMJB, the starter has 4 of Jack Black's best-selling skincare and shave products, plus a full-size Intense Therapy Lip Balm SPF 25 in natural mint. Here's to the winning combination of the LA Kings and the starter from Jack Black. $10 plus free shipping, available at getjackblack.com with the code TEAMJB while supplies last. Another week come and gone. Time to crown a King of the Week. To help me do that, Jack Jablonski. How are you doing today, Jack?
I'm great. It's we're in a good area right now. We're happy and things are going well for the Kings.
Yeah, look, 2 wins at home always puts me in a good mood, and I got to see one of them, quote unquote, as just a fan. I was not in the press box. I didn't attend the post game media availabilities. I was with my buddies, and it was that 4-0 win over Dallas, and it was great. It was a ton of fun. I keep finding myself cheating when I do these, Jack, and I'm going to do it again this week. We're going to have 2 honorable mentions.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying, Jesse.
Yeah, right, exactly. One is Quentin Byfield, who returns to active duty. He's played 2 games with the Ontario Reign. We're going to talk to Jared Shaffrin in a little bit about that. So welcome back to playing hockey again, Quentin Byfield. The other honorable mention is Brendan Lemieux. He returns from his suspension, and wouldn't you know it, he picks up a goal in his game. And Jack, I don't know if you've seen the quotes from Marcus Foligno, but they are. It's
exactly what you want people to say about you as a player, because he's getting underneath their skin, regardless of Foligno trying to quote unquote put Lemieux down in terms of who he is as a player. But hey, it's his job to stir things up. It's his job to get the other team agitated. And, the wild bit. And, Lemieux not only got the last laugh with the win, but he's the reason why they got it with that goal in the third period. That game ended up being the game winner.
And you love a quote, any quote, where somebody's complaining about somebody else that ends with, but it doesn't bother me. And that's essentially Foligno's. He's an agitator and not a very good one at that. And as everybody has been quick to point out, myself included, if he's so bad at agitating, why do you seem so agitated?
Why are we talking about it? Yeah. But I think, he has, Lemieux has I don't want to say a history, but people, he has what's the word I'm looking for?
Reputation?
Thank you. He has a reputation for being, a physical, in your face, stir things up guy. But I think one of the good things that, at least I saw in terms of growth and understanding of his role and value to the team was in the post game press conference when he talked to, Carlin Bathe. She, posed the question of, they're 7-2-1 or whatever. I'm making these numbers up, but
10-3-2 with him in the line.
Thank you. And then they're about 2-7-1 without. And, is that
7-2?
Thank you. So,
no problem.
It was one of those things where his opportunity to gloat about himself, but he was all about the team. Hey, I'm just, a cog in the wheel, and I do what I have to do. And I don't think it has anything to do with me being in the lineup or not being in the lineup. But, his personal growth in that answer, I think, really solidified what he means to this team and where he sees himself and understanding his role. And he played it to a T yesterday, and he's done it the majority of this year as well.
Yeah, I don't think he's wrong. I think it's probably way too simplistic to say 10-3-2 with him in the lineup, 2-7-2 with him out of the lineup. Oh, it's because of him. But I also think that at some point coincidences become patterns.
Yes.
We got plenty of time to watch that.
We got 56 games in the season.
That's right. Exactly.
As the season plays out, like you mentioned, it'll turn into a pattern. And, given what he brings to that fourth line, he averages around 10 minutes a game, and, it doesn't sound like a lot, but, he's seemingly, always making an impact, whether it be on the scoreboard or in the emotions of his team or the other team being impacted. So, kudos to him. Definitely worthy of the honorable mention, as you pointed out. And hopefully we'll get to see a little bit more of that now that he's back in the lineup.
Yeah, the runner-up this week is going to be Philippe Deneau. A goal and an assist, and leads the team in points over these 2 games. There's only 2 games this week. But the goal obviously came against Minnesota. It was a crucial goal, came at a crucial time.
Yes.
The assist, though, the assist accomplished 2 things at the same time. One, it was an incredible defensive play. And 2, it obviously, set up a goal. So offense, defense in the same play. He knocks the puck off of Rupe Hintz's stick as Dallas is trying to leave their zone, enter the King. It happened in the neutral zones. There's a neutral zone turnover. I think Jim Fox talked about it on the telecast, talked about the importance of transition, talked about the Kings' ability to transition. And it's just one of those things where he wasn't, it wasn't like a solid positioning play. He didn't, move in and shrink the guy's space. It was an effort play. He saw an opportunity to swing his stick, to use his length. It was all about awareness. It was all about physical ability. It was all about individual talent, right, on the defensive side of the puck.
Yeah, so there's 2 things in that exact play that I want to point out. And the first one is, every coach when you're growing up talks about the importance of the blue lines. Get it in, get it out. And for Deneau to step up right at the blue line on the defensive side of the Kings, cause the turnover, get it to Brown, obviously spring Kempe for a breakaway goal to give them the lead, obviously the eventual game-winning goal on a 4-0 shutout. But for him to be able to make that play at the blue line, it's so important. You've got so many guys going the wrong direction for Dallas once he causes that turnover and opens up the ice. That is something that I think gets overlooked. And that leads me to the second point, and that's, we talk about Deneau and how impactful he is defensively. His face-off, giving Kopitar some more offensive opportunities by taking those defensive, possessions, or just, his ability to be an impact defensively and shut teams down. We talk about it, but this is a great play that shows that. And it's his ability to not only break up a potential, opportunity for Dallas, but he springs it and turns it into a goal for us. So I think if anyone's interested to see the value, and if anyone's skeptical on why we signed Deneau for what we did, this is a picturesque play that I think goes a long ways, not only for his defensive impact, but what he can do for the team on a second line consistently.
And just doubling back to our conversation about Lemieux and the record with him in and out of the lineup, Philippe Deneau makes plays like that. And you can isolate one of them and you can say, well, it's a desperation play. He swung his stick. If he misses the puck, maybe he's taken himself out of position a little bit, or he's, he's not in ideal position to join the defensive rush, if that's even a phrase. But at some point,
you talk about patterns. That's exactly
at some point it's a pattern. He just keeps making those plays.
Yeah, and it's it's not just something he's been doing in a Kings jersey for 25 games. This is something that he's notoriously known for. It's why the Kings signed him. Adding that depth down the center position has been huge for the Kings, and frankly, that line has been phenomenal. You couldn't ask for anything more in what he's been able to produce offensively, and what he's shown for us on the defensive end as well.
Yeah, and so rounding out this pair of games for him, 63% in the faceoff dot, and I won't list all of the fancy stats or how dominant he is in them, because he's dominant in all of them, and very dominant. Like, dominates the word dominant. That brings us to the actual King of the Week, and I feel a little bit guilty because we spent so much time talking about Lemieux and Deneau, the honorable mention and the runner-up, and I just don't know that there's much to say about this week's winner. It's obviously Jonathan Quick, allowing 1 goal in 2 games. And if we even want to stretch back to, the previous game he played, it's 2 goals in 3 games. But, Jonathan Quick just playing lights out.
Yeah, it's almost one of those things where beyond just ripping off his stats in the last 2 games, obviously being the week, but what he's been able to do all year is it's all-star worthy, it's Team USA worthy, it's everything that you could ask for in a Jonathan Quick, who I think many thought might be on his way out, not in terms of the Kings roster, but in terms of playing time. And for him to not only step up, play the 2012-2014 playoff version that Jonathan Quick is in right now is amazing. Whether it be Cal Peterson pushing for that job and Quickie not wanting to give it up, or just Quick playing lights out and showing that he's still got it. Who cares? All we care about is the results that he's putting up. And, I think whenever you've got a goaltender playing as well as he is, it makes so many more people in front of him so much more comfortable. They know that if they make a mistake that he's going to be back there. And he's shown that consistently with, a shutout and then a 1-goal game allowed in the last 2.
I saw a couple of people online ask if he should be considered in Vezina conversation. And obviously it's way too early for any sort of serious conversation about that.
Did we mention there's 56 games
left? But my initial reaction when I read it was like, he hasn't played enough games. As impressive as he's been, there are going to be guys who are playing a ton more games than him. And then I looked it up, and he's not that far behind the league leaders, right? Like Jack Campbell has 22 games played, and they have comparable save percentages. Jack Campbell's 935, Quick's 933. Campbell's goals against is 1.9. Jonathan Quick's is 2.04. Sorry, Campbell's is 1.99. So, we're talking about
minuscule numbers. And
yeah,
it's too far.
The difference is Campbell has 7 more games, and that's
it's a bigger sample size, but
not much.
A little bit, but yeah, you're right. It's first off, too early. Second off, yeah, he absolutely should. If you were giving the quarter or third way through this awards, no question he should be considered, because without his play, and Cal I think has gotten a little bit of a bad luck with whatever's happened in front of him, but both goalies have played well. Quickie has been outstanding, and no question he's been a top 2-3 goalie in the NHL, given the games and the opportunities that he has denied other teams when the Kings haven't had their best.
Yeah, there's 2 conversations about goalies that always bother me. One is their win-loss record, and that has always sort of driven me crazy. Like, I understand that it's been a thing in the past and we used to care about it, but now you look at it and you go, look, Igor Shesterkin has, a 9.37 save percentage and a 2.05 goals against in 18 games, and Quick has a 0.933 save percentage and a 2.04 goals against. And I understand there are more stats than that, and those stats themselves are flawed, but whatever. Like, and in Quick's done it in 15 games, so you're like, all right, same dude. Shesterkin is 13-3-2. Quick is 7-5-3, and whatever. There's 20 other guys on the team, or 19 other guys on the team that are combining for that record. And then the other one is, and we all do.
Is that your equivalent to the plus minus as skaters?
I think of it more like pitchers and quarterbacks getting wins and losses. Like, anytime someone talks about a quarterback, they're like, well, this is the win-loss record. And I'm like, all right, but come on. Surely it's more complicated than that. And then the other one is always, and we always do this, there's no way around it, but when we compare 2 goalies on a team. And one of the reasons I bring it up is because in Quick's tenure as a King, Jack Campbell, Martin Jones, Jonathan Bernier, Enroth, Erzberg, Kemper, Bishop. Badcock.
Also, shout out to Ben Bishop on the career.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a list of goalies as long as my arm. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how their numbers were compared to Quick's, right? There are some of them who had better numbers over the course of one season. There were some who had worse numbers over the course of the season, but like John Quick's the guy with his name on the cup. John Quick's the guy on the statue out front of Staples Center, or the monument, I suppose.
I'm blanking on the name of the trophy for least goals given up in the regular season. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, I believe he was the only one on that, because the other goalies that were on the team didn't qualify.
Yeah. Which is
the recognition
cheat,
is,
but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, no, it's what he's been able to do this year, and to be able to get into peak performance that we're so used to seeing outside of the years that he's been banged up is awesome. It's great to see his performance and what he's been able to do this year, because without him, the record might be a little bit different, and his stats speak for themselves. So it's great to see.
Yep, agreed. So congratulations, Jonathan Quick. This week's King of the Week. Quentin Byfield has played 2 games for the Ontario Reign. We anticipate him back with the LA Kings at some point before the turn of the calendar year, I suppose. Jared Shaffron covers the Ontario Reign for LAKingsInsider.com, and he joins us now to talk about it. How are you doing today, Jared?
I'm great, Jesse. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Full disclosure, that was my second pass at the intro. Still not thrilled with it, but we're going to move on, Jared. So I drove up to, I suppose, Ontario for the game Friday night against the Gulls. You guys headed down, and Ontario played the Gulls in San Diego Saturday night. Before we get to the Saturday night game and your overall impression of Quentin Byfield, I will say Friday night, I felt he got progressively better as the game went along. Do you feel like that's a fair assessment?
Absolutely. I think for what I saw, he really, toward the second half of that game, you could argue he was maybe one of the best players on the Reign. He, at some moments, took over. When he was on the ice, he was using his legs. He wasn't afraid at all to just go at the defense, which is exactly what you want to see from him. And that was a really great showing for him, despite, if somebody just looked at the box score to see how he did,
right,
there was literally nothing there. And I was trying to tell everybody, no, this was a good game. Like, the box score is not indicative of what he showed.
The first 2 shifts he skated, or at least the first 2 shifts, I noticed him. So at one point I turned to Matt McElroy within, I don't know, a minute and a half of the game starting, and I said, like, did I miss him? Did he take a shift and I missed it? And he said, no, I haven't seen him either. So the first 2 shifts that I noticed him, one ended with, like, I don't know, a 1.5 foot long string of sock tape trailing behind him as he went back to the bench. And the second shift ended with, like, his stick getting knocked out of his hand. And I just thought, rough start. But then there was a penalty kill in the second period, and I'm sure he had been playing well prior to that point, but he knocked a pass straight out of the air from the half wall up to the top of the zone. Knocked it down, and took it the length of the ice, essentially. Didn't score, obviously, but after that, I noticed him probably every shift. And I'm glad you used the phrase "took over," because I think it's sort of difficult in hockey for a guy to take over play. I think it's a lot easier.
He's not out there like in basketball where you're playing every single, every possession.
And in basketball, the court's much smaller, and I guess there's the same amount of guys, but you can slow the game down, marshal your forces. Your point guard or whoever's got the ball can sort of direct traffic. It's a lot harder in a larger, faster game. And yet, I have seen 2 players now this season watching the Reign, quote unquote, take over a shift, and it's TJ Tynan and Quentin Byfield. I thought it just looked great.
Yeah, and like I was saying, I think it's the way he was playing the game. It wasn't like he was just taking what the opponents were giving him, staying on the outside and just kind of there to play the game. It was that he was pressing the action. He was, especially you mentioned on the penalty kill, he just completely changes the way the Reign on the penalty kill. As good as the Reign have been this season, there have really only been a few points where you can argue that the team has struggled, and the penalty kill, both percentage wise and just the way that they've looked out there, has needed help. And you insert a player like that, and what do you know? 6 for 6 on the penalty kill, one of their best penalty kill nights that they've had all season. And I think that's in large part due to the minutes that he played and the aggressiveness that he has on both sides of the puck.
I've said a number of times on various different episodes of All the King's Men that there are blind spots for me when it comes to watching the game, and one of them is skating styles. I don't know, man. I don't know. I've had people pull me aside and say, like, that dude can't skate. And I shrug and I go, he's out there. He's on he's on 2 feet. I don't know. Like, looks good to me. Quentin Byfield is noticeable when he skates. And I don't mean it in a good way or a bad way. I said this on the pregame show last night. He is just so large and he is so fast. It is impossible not to notice it.
Absolutely. He's, I think I use the phrase a lot when I'm calling a game, like galloping around. And I was using it yesterday a little bit for Austin Strand, actually, who was moving, and he's a bigger guy, up there in the 6'4" type body frame. Quentin Byfield now more like 6'5".
Yeah.
He's one of the fastest guys out there. So he's so noticeable because of his size, and just, when he can get moving, he's one of the fastest players on the ice.
So Friday night, they started him with Velarde on his wing. I felt like by the end of the night, they had moved Velarde back to center, a line below him. And then I understand Saturday night, Velarde was back at center, not playing alongside Byfield.
Yeah, a little bit of a different arrangement. I think on Friday, they kind of changed a little bit just due to there were a lot of special team situations. So I think with certain guys playing more minutes than others, there was some adjustments late in the game just made because some guys were more rested than others. But yeah, on the game on Saturday in San Diego, different arrangement entirely because Akil Thomas was not playing. Akil Thomas had been the third line center in the game prior on Friday, but took a shot and was unable to get it all loosened up and get going on Saturday. So they changed it up. Gabriel Velarde played center on the third line. Still thought he was good, but overall, as a whole, the Reign were not as good on Saturday. I would say probably pretty conservative thing to say that it was their worst game of the season.
Really?
I would say that they just after the first period, the Reign controlled a lot of the period. They outshot San Diego. I think it was 11-4. And they really did a lot of good things in that period as a whole. But they didn't score. And I think as you guys talk about it all the time, when you're playing well early in the game, you don't take a lead, you don't take advantage. For whatever reason, the Reign were really hesitant. They were overpassing. I think they were just trying to get the perfect look. And they didn't take as many shots as they even could have had. And they didn't score in the first period, but they allowed a goal. They allowed back-to-back 2-on-1s with about 4 minutes left in the first period. In the first 2-on-1, Jordan Spence was back there, and he made an outstanding play. There was a saucer pass that was made from one attacker to the other, and Spence knocked it out of the air with his stick and cleared the play completely, didn't allow any chance. And then later in that shift, the Reign allowed another 2-on-1, and it was Spence back there again. And again, he tried to play the pass, but Braden Tracy from the goals, great shot, beat Garrett Sparks up high. So the goals end up going up 1-0 at the end of the first period. And then I don't know what happened between the first and the second, but it was not the same Reign team in the second period. They allowed a power play goal. They got behind 3-0. They did score before the end of the period. Helge Grans made that was probably the bright spot of the night, is that Helge Grans made an amazing play deep in the offensive zone, not a spot that you would usually see him. He's been way more on the perimeter, but he got in deep and made a nice play to score a goal. But other than that, there really was not many highlights for Ontario overall. And I thought Byfield was okay. I don't think he did anything poor, but he definitely didn't stand out like the game you were at when he was basically taking over some of his shifts. That was not really the case. He did some good things. He had more shots on net than he did previously. And there was actually one play late in the game on a power play. The Reign were still down by 2. And Byfield hit the post on a shot from pretty close. So that was his best chance of probably the weekend. He had a couple other looks right around the net, which is good. He was going to the front of the net. He made this one really nice play in the first period to set up Madden that he just kind of shifted around a defender, and it was one of those elite skill plays. But I would say that he was better in his first game. And I think that's to be expected on a back-to-back coming back from an injury like that.
Yeah, and not back to. I mean, obviously the AHL plays more back to back at home, I think, than the NHL, and this was a situation where you had to travel. So I don't know what time you guys left for San Diego on Saturday, but you play a game, you wake up, you hop in the car, and then you sit in traffic on the way to San Diego for a few hours. Probably have an impact. Now, we were planning on talking exclusively about Quentin Byfield. You and I were talking about the thing that just got announced as you were talking about last night's game, which is that we anticipated Christian Wolanin would be recalled from the Ontario Reign to replace Alex Edler. The email literally just came in. Alex Edler has been placed on injured reserve. Christian Wolanin has been recalled from the Ontario Reign. It's only been 3 games that he's been back since being reclaimed on waivers from the Buffalo Sabres. But how did Christian Wolanin look to you in those 3 games?
I think he looked really good. I think he was keeping his game extremely simple, which is something he is probably going to want to do once he gets back with the Kings. And, I actually got to talk to him after the game, and it was in our post-game media availability from his first game, which was a win in Bakersfield last week. And I thought he looked pretty good. And he was like, I did some good things and I did some bad things. And he was like, that's to be expected. He'd only played 1 game in the last basically month with Buffalo, and he had played no games prior to that. So he really kind of just had a really, for him specifically, very unfortunate start to your year. You're kind of in that in-between stage with LA. You get picked up. You don't even really get a shot to play more than 1 game for Buffalo. And now you're coming back and you're expected to play 20 plus minutes a night, top 4 defensive pairing, all situations. He was on the power play all 3 nights for Ontario too. And I think he was trying to keep his game simple, but you can see that he can do so many different things out there. And Christian Wolanin's one of the players that I've actually gotten to see grow over the course of his career. I watched him when he was in juniors in the USHL, got to see him play in an all-star event there. Then he went to North Dakota, won a national championship, got to see him play there as well when I was following the college game. And so kind of seeing how his game has grown and how he's progressed during his career. And he's just one of those guys that skates well. He's got a good offensive mind. He's got a good head on his shoulders. And it's always just been picking his spots. You don't want to find yourself in trouble because he has the opportunity to help out on the offensive end. But if he jumps in at the wrong time, all of a sudden, things are coming back the other way and you might be giving up an odd man rush. So that's always just been the thing with him is he's got the talent to make a difference. He can play both sides of the puck really well. It's just picking your spots.
Well, he rejoins the Kings, who lost Alex Edler. And I mean, it's an understatement to say what a shame it is that Edler was. Obviously, it's a shame whenever a player is injured. But when a player is injured like that, and at this point in the season, and when a player means everything that Edler has meant for the Kings this year, so obviously we wish him a speedy recovery. And when it comes to Wolanin, we talked last week on this show, Jared, about Wolanin rejoining the organization at virtually the same time that Cale Clegg left the organization. I don't want to hash that whole conversation, but it seems to me that Wolanin, at least in the Kings scheme of it all, he's 6'2", but he's not lumbering, right? He's not slow. He's not immobile. And he strikes me as sort of like a jack of all trades kind of player, right? Like if you ask me what's Christian Wolanin's game, I'm not sure I could point to one thing that now maybe this is me not being familiar enough with the player. Maybe somebody would say, well, his puck moving or his 2-way game, but he strikes me as a guy who's sort of pretty good at everything.
Yeah, I would say the offensive side of the game is probably a little more of an upside for him. Mm-hmm. So a little bit of a, not exactly a 1-for-1 type of replacement for what Alex Edler was bringing. Now, Alex Edler also was, he had a lot of assists this year. He was on the score sheet a bunch. So he was doing it all, on both sides of the puck. And I think for Wolanin, he's a little bit more mobile, obviously way younger in his career. So, again, it's not really, you can't even really compare the two of them, but on his own, he has NHL skill and he's comfortable. And you know what? The other thing is he's a really good teammate and he's just an easy guy to get along with. Like, he knows everybody in the room. from being around a little bit already, but he's just someone who is very easy to, like, whoever he ends up pairing with is going to be comfortable because he can support in all areas of the ice, and he communicates well. He's just kind of a likable guy all around. So he'll fit really well into the group when he gets up there.
Excellent. Well, Jared, I want to thank you very much for joining us, talking to us about Quentin Byfield and Christian Wolanin. And I imagine I'll see you next weekend.
Absolutely. Yep. Reign play 2 games at home at Toyota Arena this coming weekend. First time we'll see the San Jose Barracuda all season, and another game against the Tucson Roadrunners, which the last 2 were insane. So it should be some good hockey. And hey, it's Teddy Bear Toss this weekend as well on Saturday. So that's always a fun night as well.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because I know I keep telling people that they've got to come out and catch a Reign game, but the Teddy Bear Toss game is always it's always a spectacle. It's pretty amazing. If you ever want to see, 12,000 or maybe not 12,000, but 1,200 teddy bears thrown.
Hopefully more like 12,000.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. Can the building
it'll be somewhere in between 1,200 and 12,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably more like 3,000 or 4,000.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks very much, Jared. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jesse.